You are listening to Fantha Tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. This is Making Tracks. Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
That's not true. That's impossible.
Hello everybody, and welcome to episode 84 of Making Tracks, brought to you by the fine folk over at fantracks.com. My name's Mark, I am one of your co-hosts, and this week I'm joined by the birthday boy himself, Mr. Mark Newbold. Gooper Mark, how are you doing?
Gooper Mark, I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. For those who might be up to date with things, I have been watching some of the Ewoks cartoons and been picking up on some of the little Ewok kind of like language they kind of throw into each little episode. So as far as I'm aware, Gooper means hello or hi, and if it doesn't, I've probably insulted a lot of people.
I think your efforts could be described as Gunda.
Gunda, exactly.
For good.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Exactly. So that's cool. How are you, my friend? How's your week been? How's your birthday week been? And how's your week in Star Wars been?
It's both have been fantastic. I woke up on my birthday on the 31st. Shocked that I've got this far for a start. Clicked on Fantha Tracks and there was this wonderful video that the team put together with Darth Elvis singing. He knows I'm a Maiden fan, so he did a version of Wasted Years with
it's good,
changed lyrics. And then all you guys all wishing me happy birthday, which was very, very cool. And then, just a nice relaxed day, opening presents and loads of messages on Facebook and Twitter and socials, which was really cool, which is always nice. The Rancho Obi-Wan fundraiser that we talked about last week is now finished, and we raised £421.
Oh, that's wicked, man.
I was chuffed to bits about. So that's well over $500, obviously. So really, really pleased about that. So I can't wait to chat to the guys at Rancho, and hopefully that helps a little bit. So that worked out well. So it's been a really good week. Lots of little bits and bobs have turned up.
Cool.
What have I got? Let me look around. I've actually put most of it upstairs now, but my brother-in-law got me, I'm wearing it actually, but got me a really cool Star Wars t-shirt, which is like the Ascent of Man, which starts out as the monkey and works its way all the way up to Darth Vader. And, some friends of mine down in Verwood near Bournemouth got me some Adidas trainers. They're the X-Wing trainers.
Nice.
Which are really nice. So I've got unusually weird-shaped feet, so I have to wear my trainers in. I'm a size 11, but because my arch on the top of my foot is so high, I have to wear trainers to sort of stretch them in, and they never last because I'm just odd shape. But so I'm wearing those in at the moment. So it's been a really good week, really good week. How about you, mate?
My week's been fine. Yeah, I have been decorating a little bit. We've thought we'd take advantage of the extended bank holiday weekend and just hit the lounge and just give it a fresh coat of paint and all that stuff. So I've been kind of doing DIY. I've had a few bits and bobs this week come, but to be honest, nothing as exciting as X-Wing trainers. So, I tell you what I've had. Just received for Skywalker, A Family at War.
Oh, you've got that?
Hardback
Oh,
book.
right. I haven't ordered that yet. I need to order that, yeah.
I've not really looked at it other than the front cover, which I have to say is absolutely beautiful because it's like a wraparound artwork and it's kind of, it basically just kind of covers Luke and Vader all the way through to Rey and Kylo. Just flicking through it, there's glossy images halfway through the book and stuff like that, which I always like. It always reminds me of the original paperbacks from the original trilogy. Yeah. That, again, like photos and that halfway through, which is cool. The actual book, I've not had a chance to kind of flick through as such, but from what I understand, it's basically just a retelling, isn't it, of the Skywalker saga, specifically focused on the family, which is quite interesting and a good take, so that's cool. And apart from that, I've been trying to sneak in a few little episodes of the Ewoks cartoon as I can. It's a bit hard in between kind of like, sessions of walls painting and drying and stuff like that, but managed a couple of episodes. And I think that's kind of like a good place to start, really, because that dropped earlier this week. So have you had a chance to see any of the new stuff that what they've collected under the banner of Vintage Star Wars?
Yeah, which I thought was an unusual choice, given that we've got Vintage Star Wars figures and Star Wars the Vintage Collection. It's an overused phrase, but it does make sense on Disney Plus. And also, I thought it was smart that they've sort of separated it from the rest of the stuff. So anybody who's got any doubts about is this canon? I'm doing the little air quotes. Is this canon? No, it's sort of its own separate little thing. So far, I've had a chance to watch. I've watched about the first hour of Caravan of Courage, which was a film I loved as a kid, really enjoyed. a kid. I was 13 when it came out. I wasn't exactly a tot or anything, but I really enjoyed it because obviously it was post-Jedi, so this is where we learned that there's going to be more stuff. The first time we realised after episode 6 comes out and you're thinking it's done now, we're finished. We might get 1, 2, and 3, but you're not going to get anything after. And then Ewoks comes out, Caravan of Courage. So it was really fun to see, and I hadn't seen it for, I bet it's 20 years comfortably since I've seen Caravan of Courage, comfortably, probably longer, and was really surprised how kind of charming it is. And yeah, the visuals are like really, they're not amazing. The matte paintings are beautiful. That's what completely sells it. And the performances are great. The visual effects are not the best, but it's still just so much fun to go back to that. So I do want to watch that, and then I want to watch Battle for Endor, which I watched it once, maybe twice, years back when it came out here on VHS. MGM released it weirdly, which is another conversation to have. How many different companies have released Star Wars products? Do you think it's just Fox? And it's not, because Warner's did Clone Wars and MGM released Battle for Endor, and obviously that was a tough watch. So, but I do want to watch it again just to make sure I'm not misrepresented it in my head, but I do remember it being awful. And then I definitely want to get into watching Ewoks, because it was the one show back then I would sort of watch it if it was on, but I wouldn't set aside the time to watch it. But now, over the years, different things I've done in magazine writing and stuff, I've been able to pull information from some of those cartoons and fold it in different places. So so without having really delved into it too much, so I kind of want to go through them and watch them just so they've passed through my head at some point of my life. So I do want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, they're fun, and they're only 20 odd minutes, so it's, you can easily do it. It's a bit like the Clone Wars of Genndy Tartakovsky. That's worth rewatching, but they're so short, some of them, that you can kind of get through a good few episodes in a lunch break or something like that, which is basically what I'm planning to do next week when I'm returned to work. The Droids cartoon series wasn't part of the initial drop or announcement, but Stars.com have since gone and said that the Star Wars Droids animated series is slated to join the rest of the vintage collection later this year. So it's coming, and it's quite nice that they may be spreading it out a little bit, so there's a bit of a eking out a little bit of extra press release and content for Disney Plus. So you got to be happy about that's coming, right?
Like crazy. I mean, to have Anthony Daniels be the voice, that was a lot of fun. Gave it a validity. A lot of ILMers worked on Droids. Ben Burt directed episodes. Joe Johnson worked on the design. There's a lot of people involved in it. Yeah, I love Droids. I'm really looking forward to it. And again, it's another show I've not watched for a long time because it's been so hard to get your hands on. I mean, there was the VHS releases that we got. The States got them as well. There was the sort of the edited versions that came out on DVD, but it was a region 1, so it was difficult to get to play over here. There's always stuff knocking about online, and I think most people have got shonky copies. But yeah, it'll be nice to see what they do, because I'm hearing that the Ewok cartoons apparently look really nice. I don't know if they've remastered them or cleaned them up or what, but I'm hearing that they look really nice and crisp. Droids would really benefit from that cleaner presentation, and I just wonder, I know there's the intro music they had issues with, and that's always been a problem, but I'm very curious to see how it'll look. Really looking forward to that.
The Ewoks cartoon looked good. I mean, it still looks of its time, to be fair. The animation, from what I remembered what it looked like to actually what I saw last night, I was kind of like, oh, it's not as good as I remember it. But then obviously, as you say, kind of things change and animations change, and I have no idea what the budget is for an episode of Ewoks and that. So it's, it is what it is. Big chances that actually a lot of this cleanup work kind of happens sometimes just via the ingest into the streaming servers, because they tend to all have like noise reduction algorithms as you ingest footage and stuff like that. So hopefully it will look good.
Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith, Star Wars fan, Fantha Tracks fan.
Let's move on to the Bad Batch trailer.
How cool did that look? Beautiful animation. They're definitely sort of taking you on that. When they brought the Clone Wars back for season 7 and you looked at it and you thought, it's not quite the same as what we had in the previous 6 seasons of the Clone Wars. And it kind of had a halfway house between Rebels and Clone Wars, but a really sweet halfway house, if that makes sense. Because obviously Clone Wars cost a fortune back in the day, but technology's moved on, and and you got to consider all the assets that they were using. It's expensive stuff to design. Bad Batch picks up visually, stylistically from season 7, and that trailer, just so much sort of kinetic energy. Those characters, they're rough house, knock them down, drag them out type characters. So it'd be kind of refreshing in a way to have that style in Star Wars today, because to me, The Bad Batch feels like a TV show that if they'd have had the budget and the capability to do it in the 90s, this is what you would have got in the 90s. It had that vibe in the night, that Dark Horse vibe, that
yeah.
You know, the Boba Fett and Jabba the Hutt comics. It's that kind of feel to me. It'll obviously be more nuanced than that. But yeah, what a trailer, and we get to see a bit more of Fennec Shand as well.
Absolutely, it's totally action-packed. And what I quite liked about the trailer was it's that whole thing of kind of setting up the series in a really easy way to understand without kind of getting too like expositionally heavy, so that people can kind of get an idea of what's going on without necessarily having to watch the Clone Wars. Because, of course, there's going to be people now who will be jumping onto a series who may not have seen the Clone Wars because of stuff like the Mandalorian. So, obviously, having somebody like Fennec Shand in the trailer as well, that just it's just one of those kind of nice touchstones. And hopefully that character also, because now that, you know, she's also voiced by Ming-Na Wen, which is great, we're going to see a little bit more backstory to Fennec, and maybe even something that may link into what we see in the Book of Boba Fett, which will be just kind of like that nice connectivity that we really want from the Star Wars series these days. To begin with, I wasn't quite sure when that Camino scene was set. Is that set after Order 66? Was that set prior to that? I don't know if it's a flashback and that. I mean, you've got Tarkin. He's looking quite old. I didn't totally look at his rank badge and had to know whether or not that was Imperial Tarkin or Republic era Tarkin.
Yeah.
And generally, I thought the kind of show we're going to get is pretty much what we've seen in the trailer, I would think. Cool that we saw Captain Rex as well. That was quite a surprise. Did you spot him? He was on the planet with all the downed Venator starships and stuff.
Yes.
So that's cool. Again, that will be interesting to see how those two groups connect, and that because obviously they would have met in the Clone Wars, and you know, we don't necessarily know what happens directly after the Clone Wars with Rex beyond what happens with Ahsoka. So does that mean that potentially we could see Ahsoka, or has she gone off somewhere else, or who knows? I thought what was interesting was the young character, the young girl, but I don't know if you kind of saw it on the subtitles because I watched it with the subtitles on. Her name's Omega.
Okay. You're thinking clone then, yeah?
I'm thinking clone, but also obviously Omega is the last letter in the Greek alphabet. So is this possibly the last clone, as it were, or is it a clone that they've done some kind of hybrid genetic work with? Because obviously she had blonde hair. Is that a case of another Bad Batch as such? Like maybe they've experimented and it hasn't worked out, but based from what we can see in the trailer, she's going to be like the entry point for those who probably haven't seen Star Wars, Clone Wars or Rebels as such. She kind of has that younger appeal to her, so maybe she's going to be there to appeal to the younger audience and stuff. And also she's got that cool energy bow, so again there's similarities between maybe what we saw with Ezra and stuff, but that's not to say that she's going to be force sensitive by any stretch, but it's quite nice how they're keeping to a similar kind of theme and some kind of levels to keep things easy for people to access it if they haven't seen stuff before.
I'd be curious to stack up a photograph of that character Omega and stand the character next to young Boba Fett from Attack of the Clones. I could be completely wrong, but heads telling me their outfits could be quite similar. So there is that. I think I like your logic of, you know, Omega, if it's on Camino, the cloning aspect, because you move into the Imperial era and it's flip-flopped so many times. To be honest, I'm not quite sure where we are with it right now, but, you know, back in the day, back in the 70s when all the poster mags came out, the Imperial Stormtrooper was basically the drones of the Empire. They were cloned. The logic of it was that the army, those guys, were cloned and controlled. Very much like something Lucas picked up on in the prequels. They closed down the droid army, so the droid armies are basically gone. They can't be controlled. They're shut off and done. But having clones that you can encode things like Order 66 into feels like a no-brainer. If the Emperor could do that in the prequel era, why wouldn't he do that in the Imperial era? Because he's played both sides against the other before and won to huge success in the prequel era. So why would he stop that now? You can enlist people and you can start this whole propaganda campaign. But that takes time and effort, like raising taxes takes time and effort. I still say, you know, one of the Empire's most prevalent missions was to raise taxes to fund the war, you know, to fund the regime rather than the war. But nevertheless, there's all these boring taxation of trade routes around Naboo type conversations that you can have around Star Wars that make the logic of it tick over. This character, this young character, she a female or he a male or whatever, we can't make any assumptions really. Nancy Cartwright voices Bart Simpson, so you know you can't really you don't know. Nevertheless, that character, they've sort of pitched the Bad Batch as mercenaries. Clone Force 99, aren't they? They've pitched them as mercenaries in this incarnation post Order 66. Maybe they're getting this kid out so they can't clone him or her anymore. You know what I mean? There's lots of thought processes. So yeah, I'm with you. I think When it came in, I thought, oh, do we need a kid? But like you say, like Ezra, like Anakin in Phantom Menace, it's a good in for younger kids. I'm sure they're hoping that Bad Batch runs for, 4 seasons like Rebels or 7 seasons like Clone Wars. Who knows?
Well, that's it, isn't it? I suppose that's the question. Some of our action stuff that we kind of saw, don't know if it was set on Naboo or if it was set on Onderon, but if it was set on Onderon, then we know that's where Saw Gerrera was fighting in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Is that now, again, a stepping stone towards Rogue One and the Rebel Alliance, and again connecting everything up in that way, which would be quite interesting. There was kind of shots of Clone Force 99 literally kind of running through all those battle droids, and I know some of them were in the kind of training grounds in Camino, but then some were kind of clearly out in a planet. Now, either that's a flashback, or is that potentially that whilst Anakin went to Mustafar and told the separatists to cease all action and turn off the droids, whether or not there's actually some separatists who carried on fighting for a little bit, and actually this is what we're seeing. We're seeing the Bad Batch kind of mopping up some of the droids and stuff around the galaxy.
Yeah, I think with this as well, because they're mercs, that you're going to get to meet characters that other clones not necessarily would. So yeah, you're going to come across scenarios where people have jury-rigged their own droid control ships and using them to terrorize planets to get money out of them, or whatever it might be, And that bunch of characters, Hunter, Echo, Tech, Wrecker, Crosshair, they're just going to go piling in, and they're going to be the
Pretty
A-team.
much,
They're the mercenaries. They're the men on a mission, or men for hire.
Exactly. I don't know if you've noticed him, there was that character who had the light whip who kind of looked like a Zygerian slaver, which again is characters that I think was Ahsoka got captured and taken into slavery at one point. It was that really awkward episode of the Clone Wars where she was dressed in not a great deal, and Anakin went and saved her, obviously. So potentially, again, that could be one of those things that, like you said, they're going around to a galaxy and they're fighting the good fight, as it were, against people who maybe the slavers, the Empire might not be too fussed with it, or they might have some kind of quiet agreement with about, we use the Zygerian slavers because we need a lot of workforce to build, I don't know, a battle station and stuff like that, So it could kind of all link that way. So it definitely looks interesting, and I can't wait for May the 4th so we can actually start watching it, because I think it's going to be good. Do we know if it's like a double episode they're going to drop, or feature-length episode yet? Have they mentioned that anywhere?
They haven't. They say 70-minute premiere episode, and if it's like normal, a regular episode of Clone Wars and Rebels is generally sort of 20 minutes, give or take. If it is a full-on 70-minute premiere, we don't have adverts.
Feature, isn't it?
It's a mini feature, yeah. So let's hope it's its own thing. It's a one-off premiere 70-minute episode. That's what it is, and not Georgie's idea of let's stitch 3 episodes of Clone Wars together and launch it as a feature film. But it kind of feels to me like it is that in a weird way. It wouldn't surprise me if at some point this cropped up on ABC or something, just to get people aware of it, to drag them over to Disney Plus. So it'd be a good idea if they did. But yeah, let's hope it's its own thing.
Hey, I'm Matthew Reinhardt.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wilson.
And we're on Panther Tracks.
Big news from Tatooine. We have an Obi-Wan Kenobi cast, basically. The news broke earlier this week on StarWars.com with a nice graphic of the main listed cast, which obviously includes Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, but also a couple of familiar faces from the prequel era as well.
Yeah, thrilled to see Joel Edgerton come back as Uncle Owen. Obviously, Bonnie Peace, who looks more like Amy Poehler every day, coming back as Aunt Beru. Yeah, we're not only getting our prequel trilogy, live-action prequel trilogy, Obi-Wan and Anakin back together, but also our prequel trilogy, Owen and Beru as well. So that was a great move. We'd already heard all the rumours about certain other actors like India Ravama, which we talked about on the site. But let's just go through some of the names. I mean, there's some well-known names and some not so much. And Moses Ingram, I'm not familiar with her. I don't know any of her other work. But she did put a tweet out mentioning that she had been preparing with lightsabers. So some people have said, is she a young Ahsoka? If you look at the picture of her, which, as you say, was on StarWars.com and now on Fantha, to me, her face, the shape of her face, very much, and it wouldn't make sense because this character's dead, but it might indicate her species, which is why people might be thinking Ahsoka. She looks to me like Shaq-Ti with the high eyebrows and the very oval face. If you think of how Shaq looked, she has that sort of look to me. So maybe people are putting 2 and 2 together in that respect. I don't know. Kumail Nanjiani, who's currently or will soon be in the Eternals, but he's been in plenty of other comedies over the years. He's in there. Now, we know he's ripped to ridiculousness at the moment in his preparation for the Eternals, so who knows what character he's going to play. What do you think, just looking at these? I mean, we really are just wetting a finger and putting it up to the wind, aren't we? We've got no idea, but any thoughts?
Well, that's the thing, because I kind of thought just by looking at the photo of Kamal, but possibly he could be an older kidster, because there's no indication of if he's actually screen or not, off screen. And because of his comic stuff, I mean, he could be playing some kind of droid.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, if you'd seen a picture of Phoebe Waller-Bridge and didn't know she was playing L3, you'd go, oh, she's a member of a royal family, or she's an Imperial officer or whatever, and then it turns out she's a droid. So yeah, there's no idea.
Yeah, probably the one person that at least I'm going to definitely typecast him is probably Rupert Friend. He kind of looks very Imperial officer to me, so he could be the commanding officer for the Imperial garrison on Tatooine. That would be my guess, and maybe he's like the main baddie. Maybe he's the one who's getting these kind of hints of, oh, actually, there might be somebody here that I need to look at. And obviously, it's, he may recognise Obi-Wan Kenobi, but might not be able to put his finger on who he is and stuff. But,
yeah, I get you, but I'm kind of hoping that they go, because the moustache-twirling English actor as the bad guy is such a cliche.
Exactly.
To me, I'm looking at him because I loved him in Homeland. I'm kind of hoping he's like a Cassian-type character. In Dear Yvonne, we've talked about before, another British actress, O'Shea Jackson Jr., so he's Ice Cube's kid. He's not done a huge amount. He was brilliant in Straight Outta Compton, playing his dad. That's an awesome film. I love that film. Apparently, he was in Den of Thieves. He was in one of the Godzilla movies. So he's not done a huge amount. Clearly, he's shown enough that they want this guy in this show. And it feels to me that if they've picked an actor who's relatively unknown, there's something about his performance that they're like, that's specifically what we want to bring to this project. So
yeah.
He feels like he's been cherry-picked for a reason. Benny Safdie, who's primarily known as a director, but he's in the show. No idea what or who he's going to play. Obviously, they've not announced that.
And Simone Kessel, interesting, just because of her name. So,
yeah.
If she's playing a smuggler, that'd be amazing.
Wouldn't it? The best casting for me is Sung Kang, who people know from the Fast and Furious movies. He played Han in the Fast and Furious films.
Yeah.
His nickname in Fast and Furious was Han Solo because he was from Seoul, and so he was Han Solo, and now he's in a Star Wars film. I mean, how much more perfect could that be?
Exactly. The Force moves in mysterious ways and everything just lines up exactly how you want it to. So. But yeah, so they, Stars.com also announced that filming for this, so production's meant to be starting in April. And they did use an interesting kind of term, didn't they, just to describe the series. They referred to it as a special event series.
Yes.
Which was quite interesting. So they didn't call it like a limited series or like a short run series. They called it a special event series. So I guess that's just to kind of emphasise the fact that this is a one-off micro series, and that's all, at least for the time being, we're likely to get.
My gut tells me, because they're saying this is a decade after Revenge of the Sith, so it's still 9 years before A New Hope. They're going to do this however many episodes, I don't know, 6, 8, whatever, 4, I don't know. And they do this, and it comes out, and it's going to have huge interest because it's Ewan McGregor back in the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi, so massive interest. And I can't see it being anything other than a big hit, because they're not going to put any old dross out. They're going to make sure this works, because Obi-Wan is one of the OG characters, and he's too important to Star Wars not to do it right. I think what they'll do is they'll make this series, and they'll leave it for a couple of years, and then they'll come back to it when Ewan's sort of 52, 53, and go, we're like 6 or 7 years ahead of New Hope now. How do you fancy coming back and doing it again? And Ewan goes, yeah, why not? And they do another 6 episodes, and so they can do it as and when they want to do it, because I don't imagine that Ewan, one, not that he's ever really been typecast as Obi-Wan, because he's too varied an actor, and he's had too much of other stuff going on that's not become a thing for him particularly. But nevertheless, I don't think he would want to tie himself to the role in that sense. And he's also an executive producer, so he's got another involvement in the show above and beyond what he's doing on screen. I just think that's what they'll do, because then other stories will be happening. Andor will be hopefully a couple of 3 seasons in. Other shows might have come along, and you just talked about Bad Batch sort of moving forward to the timeline. We don't know. It's the old thing about Star Trek is like 1 year in Star Trek is 1 year on Earth. And that never had to be the case. With Bad Batch, if they would have stepped forward 5 years between seasons, what's to stop them? What's to stop Bad Batch coming into the Rebels era, into the Rogue One era, even right up to A New Hope? What's to stop them? There's nothing to stop them.
They could even end up in Endor, for all we know.
Those characters could be there if they wanted to make it that way. Visual effects technology now, if they wanted to cast live-action versions of the Bad Batch characters and drop them into the Battle of Endor and stick it out on Disney Plus without telling anyone, they could do it.
Disney have kind of got the technology, and I think they've got, if there's enough desire to do that, why not? I do quite like the idea of Kenobi coming back after a few years and having a second series or a second mini event or special event, as they call it. It's that interesting balance, isn't it, of weighing up how much new content, and when I say new content, I mean new character content, so actually introducing new characters into Star Wars universe in a way whereby they can run on their own, but relying on, as you said, the OG characters and that, because obviously there's definitely stories to be told for some of these characters, but then at the same time, the only way the franchise is going to grow and last for another 40 years is with new characters telling their own stories. So it'll be interesting just to see how they can kind of weave the two and balance the two. I mean, there might be, hell, if What's-His-Face does actually play Kitster and it's really popular, we could end up with a Kitster series. And how amazing could that be? Scrap Falcon and Winter Soldier, we could actually have Kitster and Wold as a ongoing series on Disney+.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
So, happy days. We've got a listener's question come in. It's from Pat Clifton, and it relates to something we've talked about earlier on in the episode. So, here we go. So, with Disney Plus now hosting archive material, what would you like to see from the vaults? Old making of specials, maybe edited TV appearances. So basically, Pat's saying, what stuff that we haven't got would you like to see? And delving into that question a little bit, obviously there's the making ofs, like he mentions. There's TV appearances, Donnie and Marie's and all that sort of stuff. There's chat show interviews. You could really get into the nitty-gritty of the press tours if you wanted to. So, Mark, what would you like to see that we haven't seen yet so far?
Oh, good question. Thanks for that, Pat. Definitely, I'd think some of those original trilogy making-ofs, which I've got on VHS, but I've never watched them on VHS. I think I've seen them on YouTube. Again, bit like you said with Droids, slightly dodgy kind of copies and stuff. So it would be great to have them on an official channel, cleaned up a little bit and just presented in a really nice way. But yeah, for some of those press tour stuff, I'm thinking back to Big Breakfast, June, July 1999, where they had Lucas on and everybody from Phantom Menace with Johnny Vaughn. That would be quite fun. I'm sure that stuff hasn't aged very well whatsoever. But I suppose, I mean, obviously the big question is, I watch a lot of late night chat show host stuff on YouTube, normally clips and stuff, but I'm not 100% up on who's on what channel, so which ones would possibly have the rights to. But I suppose with Disney owning like ABC, you could obviously go down that route. I'd be curious to see how they could package it up. Would you do it as just like a clips, or would you show the whole episode? Or, I mean, it would be interesting, and it would be a great kind of time capsule. And certainly I'd love to see some more of those early original Star Wars press conference stuff and what have you, and anything from that area. I mean, I don't know, did any of the cast member actually do any kind of talk show host before Star Wars came out? I mean, other than San Diego?
Yeah, it was. That's what I was going to say was San Diego. The big one I can think of was Worldcon. I think Hamill and Lippincott and Kurtz went to Worldcon. They certainly went to San Diego. So there's footage there, which you kind of consider the A New Hope press tour, or the Star Wars press tour as they would have called it. And Carrie turned up on stuff, certainly going into Empire. She was on that. I mean, she spoke French, so she did that French interview, and Harrison Ford would turn up on different shows. So I think if you wanted to package it in a way, like I said, press tours, or that's the most linear way I can think of doing it, is that here's the press they did related to Star Wars, here's the stuff related to Empire. Hamill on the Muppet Show is already on Disney Plus. So if they want to pull that clip and put it in the Star Wars package, it's easy. Certain interviews that are on ABC or its affiliates, they're easy. By the same token, if there's a clip of Ewan McGregor swinging his lightsaber around, the whole story of him getting the role of Obi-Wan and running around to Noel Gallagher's house and them having a lightsaber fight in the middle of the night on his lawn sort of thing, which was a great story. On the BBC, all Disney Plus have to do is obviously get permission to use that clip and then links to on the screen, that sort of thing. So I don't know how the rights work. You would know more about that than me.
Whenever I've been making a show and you need to grab a clip from something, there's sometimes, at least in the UK, you have to basically get permission, obviously, but depending on the length of clip and that, there's normally a price. So it will just kind of come down to the length of clip versus how much they want to charge. And sometimes we've had to re-edit shows because we've had a lot of archive stuff, and then it's not been cleared ahead of time, and then they've kind of gone, they want like 12 grand for 2 minutes worth of video, because obviously they know, but it's important to the show you're putting together.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if you're just basically just slapping up clips onto Disney Plus, it's going to be of interest to Star Wars fans, but I'm not 100% sure how the casual viewer would probably sit and want to watch all that stuff. But I suppose it's up there, so you just don't know, because that stuff would fall probably under, like the Graham Norton stuff, maybe BBC Worldwide. So if BBC Worldwide has a exclusivity deal for their content with Amazon or Netflix or something like that, whether or not it would even be a possibility. I suppose it would just come down to how much they'd want to do it. But saying that, I think anything that they've ever released on any of the DVDs, any of the Blu-rays, should be up on Disney Plus. I think that should just be up there straight away. You know, the R2-D2, was it behind the dome or under the dome?
I think it was beneath the dome.
Yeah. That's on. Yeah, so that should kind of be up there, and all the little features and stuff from the prequel DVDs, which I don't think not all of it made it onto the Blu-rays and stuff. So all that kind of stuff I think should be up there.
Well, I agree with that. Like say your old making a Star Wars, SVFX, making of Empire, classic creatures from Star Wars to Jedi, making of a saga, all those things should be on there. But also there's a lot of content that was on what I will call the old StarWars.com. So things like Anatomy of a Dewback and all the hyperspace videos that were out there before. There might be fans out there who sort of managed to save them back in the day, or they're on the Wayback Machine or something like that. But generally, they're harder to get your hands on now. So I think that sort of content would be really interesting to get. And they're probably out there in other places right now. To get them on Disney Plus, there'd be a heck of a lot of value in that. But really, the old making of specials for me, that's what I would really like to see. And it's just, that's why I think it's such a shame that Indiana Jones has swung towards Paramount Plus. Yeah. Because you've got all that making of Raiders, making a Temple of Doom, the Horizon program we had over here. There was a lot of behind the scenes programs that got made here in the UK. There was a couple about Empire. They sort of delved into the making of that doesn't get seen very much, and they crop up on YouTube every now and again. But there was loads for indie. I don't know if Paramount Plus are set up in anything like the same way as Disney Plus. I don't suppose they are, because it's Paramount and CBS, so it's a different mix of brands. You know, they probably just want to get the episodes out there, whereas Disney Plus, by this Star Wars vintage endeavour that they've undertaken, and clearly there's more coming because Droids is coming, it feels more archival. They've expanded it to like, oh, okay, we want to give you more detail because we know you love Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, and that's the modern version of SVFX, The Making of Empire, or Classic Creatures. So they're giving the fans what they want, which I love.
Some of that stuff, it was on the digital releases that they did. So I'm trying to think when that was 20,
15, 16,
20, yeah, 16, something like that. So some of that stuff is on there. Surely that's just an easy win, just to kind of go, right, here you go, here's all this stuff. Just throw it up there. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't, unless it's just a matter of we might get to it, or there's going to be a program, as it were. There'll be some kind of initiative that they're going to have somebody who's going to be in charge of scheduling stuff and what goes up when, and you know what the priority is, and also I guess it will come down to whether or not Lucasfilm has much say in it. Like, do they need to put forward content, or is it just somebody at Disney and the Disney Plus office and going, what other stuff have you guys got that we could kind of throw up onto Disney Plus? I don't quite know how it all works with them, how interlinked and how much they talk between Disney Plus and, you know, the other studios and stuff. So
that's a good point. You kind of think if it was Lucasfilm, knowing the fans love that old school element, and now we're servicing modern fans with Mandalorian, Disney Gallery, all that sort of stuff, behind the scenes stuff. With the books, you know, I'm looking at The Art of the Mandalorian is right here, so that, you know, there's a current look at that series. Maybe the sequel trilogy wasn't delved into quite enough, but there's time for that, because we've only just got prequel book from Paul Duncan, and when did, 16 years past Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah.
There's time. Star Wars is a patient game. If you're a long-time fan, you've got to be patient. It doesn't just all come in the moment, and it shouldn't. But I think it's all sitting there, and it feels like an easy win. And maybe we're doing them a disservice because, like say, we've got Droids coming, so who's to say that when Droids comes, you won't get Beneath the Dome, because there's kind of a link there. You've got that ILMX Labs Droid Tales thing coming, so maybe there's a link up there, and maybe they're being clever about what they release and when. Jedi has got its 40th anniversary in a couple of years, so maybe they'll hold classic creatures and from Star Wars to Jedi back for that. There's not the rush in that sense, is there?
No, and I suppose you kind of hit it smack on the head, I think, when you say about, we could be doing them a disservice. We don't know what they've got coming in, and kind of nor should we have. I think that is one aspect of the Star Wars fandom that I grow increasingly disliking, is this fact that expectation that we should get everything now, or that we deserve everything. And yeah, okay, I mean, to be fair, it's only because, like me and you, we've been fans for such a long time, we know of all these different behind the scenes and all this kind of content we had on DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff. You're right, there is bigger gap when it comes to the sequel trilogy, when it comes to behind the scenes stuff, and I guess that's partly just down to the fact that with Force Awakens and with Rise of Skywalker, JJ was probably a little bit more secretive about what they were filming. But from what I understand, there was film cameras documenting all this stuff. So again, maybe it's a case of them flicking through it and somebody making the call, actually, what could we put out? Yeah,
that's true. There's documentaries. There's the Director and the Jedi from Last Jedi, and there's
which is a great documentary.
It is. It really is. And there's there's the making of Rise of Skywalker documentary that was done that we looked at a few months ago, and so that there is stuff there. In time, I think it will be delved into in more depth. Hugely grateful for what we've got so far. Stoked to dive into it. Already looking forward to droids. But yeah, I want to get through those Ewoks cartoons. That's my big one.
Well, thanks to Pat for that question. If you have a question about Star Wars, be it something completely esoteric or something very topical, or any query or anything that doesn't make any sense, you're more than welcome to send us an email or a voice message. If you want to get in touch, Mark can tell you how you can do it.
I certainly can. If you want to be a part of the action and stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, visit fanthatracks.com or check out the free Fantha Tracks app. Fantha Tracks app through the App Store to follow us on your mobile device. You can reach out to us and send in your listeners' questions by emailing radio@fanthatracks.com. Do what Pat just did and put it in post. Pat, that's what's in your head. Do what Pat just did and put it in the post. Fill our saggy sacks and give us loads of questions to talk about on future episodes of Making Tracks. Comment, like and share on any of our social media feeds @Fantha Tracks, and be sure to subscribe, leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of choice. And as always, thanks to James Semple for composing the Fantha Tracks intro, Adam O'Brien for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. Another episode in the can, I think.
I think so. Thank you for listening. Have a good Easter, I guess. Have a cracking Easter.
Easter. Wow, where's my eggs?
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's another episode of Making Tracks.